This content is for informational purposes only and does not replace professional medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for personal health concerns. Have you ever sat in your doctor's office, clutching a lab report that claims your hormone levels are perfectly normal, while your body tells a completely different story? It is a frustrating, isolating experience that millions of people face every year, feeling exhausted, anxious, or physically depleted, yet being told by a piece of paper that everything is fine. You aren't imagining these symptoms, and you certainly aren't alone in this disconnect. There is a profound, often misunderstood gap between what a single blood draw captures and the dynamic, rhythmic reality of your endocrine system. We are often led to believe that a hormone test is the final word, a definitive snapshot of our internal health. Research suggests that hormones don't just sit at a static level. They fluctuate wildly based on the time of day, your stress levels, your sleep quality, and even the specific phase of your monthly cycle. When we rely on a single, isolated measurement, we are looking at a still photograph of a moving target. Evidence shows that laboratory reference ranges, the numbers used to define what is normal, are often derived from broad population averages rather than your personal baseline. Because of this, you could be experiencing a significant shift in your own hormonal balance that still falls within the wide, standardized range of a lab report. This is why many medical professionals recommend looking beyond the raw numbers to consider the clinical picture, your symptoms, your history, and how you feel on a daily basis. The mystery of hormone testing isn't about the accuracy of the lab equipment itself, it is about how we interpret the data we gather. Sometimes, the most important information isn't found in a single test result, but in understanding how these complex chemical messengers interact with one another over time. To understand why your results might be misleading, we first need to look at the limitations of how these tests are actually conducted and what they are truly measuring. To grasp what these reports are telling you, we first have to view hormones not as static numbers, but as a dynamic language. These chemical messengers are constantly circulating through your bloodstream, carrying vital instructions to your tissues, organs, and cells. They regulate your metabolic pace, your sleep-wake cycles, and your emotional equilibrium. However, the way we capture these signals changes the meaning of the data entirely. It is a snapshot of your internal environment. Because blood is the main highway for hormone transport, serum results are often highly reliable for identifying acute deficiencies or significant imbalances. A blood draw provides a high-definition image of a single second, but it cannot tell us how your body was processing those hormones 2 hours prior or how it will handle them later in the evening. This is why medical professionals sometimes utilize saliva testing. These are the hormones that have successfully exited your bloodstream to enter your tissues and exert an actual effect. Then, there is urine testing. Rather than looking at the hormones currently circulating, this method analyzes the metabolites that have been processed by your liver and kidneys. Studies indicate that this method is particularly useful for understanding how your body metabolizes and clears hormones, which can be just as critical as the levels themselves. If your body is struggling to break down a hormone efficiently, it might create a buildup that negatively impacts your health, even if your baseline levels appear perfectly normal on a standard blood test. Are we looking for a snapshot of your current circulation, a measure of what is actually interacting with your cells, or a map of how your system is processing and disposing of these chemicals? Now that we have established how these different methods capture your body's signals, we need to address the variables that can skew these numbers before they even reach your doctor's desk. Because your body is a dynamic, living system rather than a static machine, the numbers on a lab report are never just simple, fixed values. They are moving targets influenced by a complex web of internal and external rhythms. One of the primary drivers of this variability is your circadian rhythm. Cortisol, for example, typically peaks in the early morning to help you wake up and gradually declines as the evening approaches. If you provide a sample at 2 in the afternoon, you are capturing an entirely different biological state than you would at 8 in the morning. Research suggests that testing during the wrong window of your cycle can create a false impression of deficiency or excess, simply because the timing didn't align with your body's natural manufacturing schedule. Beyond these internal clocks, your immediate environment exerts a profound influence. Stress is a significant modifier. A high-pressure morning or a poor night of sleep can trigger a surge in adrenaline and cortisol, potentially clouding the markers we are trying to measure. Medical professionals often recommend keeping a detailed log of your lifestyle habits, sleep quality, and medication timing in the days leading up to a test, as these variables provide the necessary context to turn raw data into a meaningful narrative. Given these fluctuations, who actually benefits from this clinical scrutiny? Testing is generally prioritized for individuals experiencing persistent, unexplained symptoms that disrupt daily life. If your body's signaling system is struggling to maintain homeostasis, these tests serve as the initial investigative tools to identify where the communication breakdown is occurring. However, capturing the right data is only half the battle. Once we have accounted for these daily rhythms and individual variables, we have to look at the broader landscape of your health history. To understand how to synthesize this information into a clear health strategy, we must now turn our attention to the specific reference ranges that doctors use to determine what is truly normal for you. But before we dive into the technicalities of those reference ranges, we have to address the underlying motivation for these tests. Often, the impetus for ordering a hormone panel isn't just a routine checkup, it's a response to a constellation of symptoms that have begun to disrupt your daily quality of life. Consider the persistent, heavy fog of fatigue. We aren't talking about the typical tiredness that follows a long week. This is a profound, cellular exhaustion that remains even after a full night of rest. When patients report this level of depletion, medical professionals often look toward the thyroid or adrenal pathways, as these are the primary engines governing our energy metabolism. Mood disturbances, too, are frequently misunderstood as purely psychological, yet research suggests they are deeply intertwined with endocrine health. If you find yourself experiencing uncharacteristic irritability, heightened anxiety, or a lingering sense of melancholy that seems disconnected from your external circumstances, it may be a physiological response to hormonal fluctuation. Hormones are, after all, chemical messengers that influence neurotransmitter activity. Furthermore, sleep architecture is perhaps the most sensitive barometer of hormonal balance. If you are struggling with sleep onset latency, that frustrating inability to drift off, or waking up at 3 a.m. with a racing mind, studies indicate that your cortisol rhythm might be inverted or dysregulated. These aren't just inconveniences, they are diagnostic clues. They are looking to validate your lived experience. These symptoms act as the bridge between your subjective reality and the objective data we collect from your blood, saliva, or urine. By identifying these specific red flags, doctors can narrow their focus, moving away from general screening toward a targeted investigation of the systems that manage your vitality. Now that we have identified the common indicators that signal a need for closer inspection, we must examine how those clinical signs align with the numerical data points found in your laboratory results. Bridging the gap between a clinical symptom and a laboratory value is where the true art of medicine resides. It is rarely as simple as matching a number to a reference range printed on a page. Instead, your physician acts as a translator, reconciling the lived experience of your fatigue, mood shifts, or metabolic changes with the biochemical snapshots captured in your blood work. This is the core philosophy of functional medicine, viewing the body as an interconnected web where subtle shifts in one hormonal pathway can ripple outward to affect your entire system. Treatment pathways often begin with foundational lifestyle interventions. Before moving toward pharmacological support, many experts prioritize the optimization of circadian rhythms, blood sugar stabilization, and nutrient density. Research suggests that these pillars provide the biological substrate necessary for hormone synthesis, often alleviating symptoms by addressing the root stressors rather than just masking the output. You may have heard the debate surrounding bioidentical versus synthetic hormones. Medical professionals often distinguish these by their molecular structure. Bioidentical hormones are synthesized to mirror the exact chemical composition of the hormones your body produces naturally. Studies indicate that for many patients, this structural similarity allows for more predictable metabolism and receptor binding. Conversely, synthetic hormones are engineered to be more potent or long-lasting, which may be appropriate in specific clinical scenarios but requires careful monitoring for individual side effects. A functional approach prioritizes the lowest effective dose for the shortest duration necessary, always keeping a watchful eye on how your body responds to the transition. It is not just about replacing what is missing, it is about restoring the delicate equilibrium that allows you to thrive. By integrating your subjective feedback, how you sleep, your energy levels, and your cognitive clarity, with the objective data from your follow-up panels, your doctor can refine your treatment in real time. Now that we have established how these treatments are tailored to support your internal balance, we we must consider the long-term perspective of monitoring and the markers of success that define your journey towards sustainable wellness. Looking ahead, the landscape of endocrinology is undergoing a profound transformation. We are moving away from the era of one-size-fits-all reference ranges and stepping into a future defined by precision medicine. Emerging research is currently focused on how artificial intelligence can analyze hormone fluctuations with unprecedented granularity. Instead of looking at a single snapshot in time, these advanced algorithms can map the complex, pulsatile rhythms of your endocrine system, identifying subtle patterns that might otherwise be invisible to the human eye. By leveraging machine learning, clinicians will soon be able to predict how your body might respond to a specific intervention before you even begin, turning the trial and error phase of hormone balancing into a highly calculated, personalized strategy. While technology is rapidly evolving, the human element remains the heartbeat of your health journey. The most sophisticated software in the world cannot replace the nuanced perspective of a qualified endocrinologist who understands the unique context of your life. Data points on a lab report are only as valuable as the clinical wisdom used to interpret them. When you partner with a specialist who views your symptoms as a narrative rather than just a set of statistics, you ensure that your path toward wellness is grounded in safety, efficacy, and genuine care. To bring this all together, remember that hormone testing is not a verdict, it is a tool for empowerment. Your results are a starting point for dialogue, not the final word on your health. By prioritizing consistent monitoring, valuing the connection between your subjective experiences and objective data, and embracing the guidance of an expert, you take control of your internal environment. Focus on the trends rather than the singular numbers, listen to the feedback your body provides, and remain patient as your system finds its equilibrium. This content is for informational purposes only. If you found this information helpful, consider subscribing to stay informed as we continue to break down the complexities of your health in future videos.